Hello, welcome to Wednesday morning. And yeah, I'm still working on the GT-350 thing here. Um, and as I keep saying, it's not going to be white with a blue stripe. It's going to be blue with a white stripe eventually. Hopefully, that's what will happen. Um, so I'm just sort of plugging away at it, getting down to kind of the last bits before it needs to be painted. And those include installing the rear pan, the rear pan, and the front pan, and those need to go on before the whole thing is painted because they need to be painted with a stripe like that. So when the model is masked for stripe painting, I want those to be on. So I've got, I don't know, a bunch of parts prepped. I got these bits here, step 18, I got those installed in the engine bay. Um, and I've got these primed. Well, like I said, there's just little bits that need to happen, and plug away at it. I'm not sure how much time all those bits of things that need to be done are going to take today. So these are the front and rear pans that go on the front and the rear of the car. Uh, that makes sense because that's where they go. These are little bits that I don't want to lose. These are bits that yet need to be put on. Rear view mirror, headlight, the behind the scenes thing for the headlights to make them look like they're shiny. Gas cap. Okay. These are parts that also need to be put on at some point. Um, I'm not going to install the hood yet because the inside of it needs to be painted the body color, which I don't have. I haven't purchased that yet. But eventually, this is supposed to go on like this, and it's supposed to open and close. Um, I don't see it actually. I don't see it actually going on. I've been trying to test fit this for a while, and it doesn't fit, and I don't want to break those little tabs because if those get broken, then it's a problem. So it looks like really about all I can do until I get the blue paint is attach these things, and then yeah, I mean maybe I could mask it, but I don't want to really mask it until I've got the paint because you know, it'll just sit there. The tape will just sit there, and it might even just start pulling away after a while. So, yeah, there's that. There is that situation of just just kind of running out of stuff to work on at the moment while I figure out when I'm going to get to the hobby shop to get the paint that I need. I could do little things. I can clean the excess black paint off the edges here. Supposedly, I should be able to do that. Should It should be an easy thing to do, but it's not apparently. So the other thing I can do is I can think of something to talk about because I've been saying that now for months. I mean, it has been months of not really having anything to talk about on the stream. We talked about 1950s and 60s television genre. I've talked about cartoon superheroes. I've talked about industries that were eliminated, essentially, just devastated by changes like the vacuum tube industry and the television antenna industry and all of the related industries, like with television antennas, right? All the related stuff like uh, material supplies, salespeople, installers, not just the manufacturing of them. We don't, no. I don't want to get real political on this stream, but I think it's odd, okay, why sometimes people rail against changes, just violently opposed to a change because it's job killing, okay? Why weren't people violently opposed to the cable television industry because it killed television antennas as an industry, or flat screen TVs? Why weren't we violently opposed to the introduction of flat screen TVs? Because look what it did to the well, not even not flat screen TVs, transistors. Look at what transistors did to the vacuum tube industry. And just look at what happened to it. And nobody said no. Must not have transistors because it's job killing. So I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what makes why some changes are job killing, even though they really might or might not eliminate very many jobs, whereas other changes are not considered job killing, even though they might eliminate lots and lots of jobs. I'm not sure why that is. And I'm not going to get any further into it, but I did want to just talk about things that the apocryphal kind of buggy whips. The whole buggy whip industry was eliminated when their internal combustion engine pretty much replaced horses. Not really sure why they were called buggy whips. We'll talk about that for a while, not whether the buggy whip industry was righteously devastated by um, internal combustion engines or not, but why were they called buggy whips? No, really. Um, is it were they used only when driving a buggy? Is that the only time they were ever used? Um, what if you were just on a horse? Did you have a whip when you were just riding a horse? And why did you have a whip anyway if you were in a buggy? Why were you whipping your horse? You didn't. If you were in a buggy, you didn't really want to go fast. You didn't want your horse to just bolt into a gallop. That would be pretty dangerous. So why were there buggy whips to begin with anyway? And it is a little bit odd. You call them a buggy whip, but you didn't whip your buggy. Okay? I mean, I suppose you could have. You could have just said bad buggy, whip the buggy, or you just had a whip and you didn't know what to do with it, and you were sitting in your buggy and you decided to use it. And the only thing inert that wouldn't be hurt by your whip would be the buggy itself. And then and so you whip the buggy, then it would be a buggy whip. But I think for the most part, it was a horse whip. I guess that didn't sound very good, did it? I got my horse whip here. what it is. It's a weird. I think it's just an oddity. What I'm doing here, I don't know if this is gonna make a difference or not, is I'm getting some of the black paint off that seeped through the mask when I painted the inside of the body black. 'Cause I'm not sure how well the blue paint is going to cover. But sometimes if it's dark underneath, I suppose I could put primer again on it, but sometimes the dark spot will show through if the paint is sort of translucent. It'll just show through as a change in the shade of the paint. It's not something I particularly want or unparticularly want or lack of particularity. I got new glasses that have prisms in them. When I take them off, my eyes don't focus together for a few seconds. I can't say minutes. It doesn't take minutes. It just takes a fraction of a minute, which is a number of seconds. I don't know. Haven't measured how many seconds, but so that's a phrase we commonly use. Just give me a couple minutes. How long is that? A couple technically is two, so just say, give me 2 minutes. I suppose what you should say is give me several minutes or give me a number of minutes, an undetermined number of minutes. And sometimes you're not even talking about a full minute. Sometimes what you're really just asking for is a fraction of a minute, that is to say, some seconds, a number of seconds. But but there is a phrase for that too. Say just a sec, because sometimes we don't say whole words. We just say syllables of words. That's the thing we do. That makes learning another language difficult, I think, because you might learn the word second, which has several meanings. It could be a 60th of a minute, second. It could be um, an ordinal number. It could be second, which is not first. It's the position after first. After first comes second. Okay? It's the same word, just totally different meaning. It also can mean a backup. Like if you're having a duel, I don't know why you would want to, but if you were having having a duel, you could name your second was the person who brings your weapon, like carries away your body after you lose. Yes, not really a substitute, but kind of an aid, an assistant. That would be your second. So among the many meanings that the word second could have is 60th of a minute. But sometimes people don't say the whole word. Don't say instead of saying "give me a second," which means a period of time, as opposed to I want I want the one that comes after first. And you say, "Give me a second," it could mean that. Oh, that's another meaning. Yes, you could say, "Give me a second," and it might not be a period of time. This a second in that context could mean um, a slightly less than perfect goods. Okay, they call those seconds. The like if there's a little bit of a damage or if it's just surplus. They're not the pristine example of whatever it is that you're getting. It's a less than perfect one. Well, the second. So maybe you want, usually they're less expensive. So maybe what you want, oh, wow. So you're starting a job on Friday? That's it. That's amazing news. Congratulations, Aman. That really is. That's really cool. So the interview went really well, and they hired you just right away. So then you'll start the job. Will you actually start the job on Friday, or will you sign the contract and then start on like on Monday? Or is it one of those jobs that um, well, that wasn't cemented in and was holding on to itself with friction, and then it wasn't. No, it frictions itself back in place again. Yeah, it's weird. It's congratulations though. That's really great. Um, I'm glad that worked out, and it worked out well, didn't it? This why was this in here so tight, and then now it's not? I don't know. Okay. When I tested these panels originally, they didn't fit well at all. I mean, just not well. And but expecting it to be just as bad or worse now that they're painted. I don't know. I don't know why this is being so difficult. It just doesn't. Just what? Oh, geez. Okay. So this was loose, and now it's falling apart. This part is supposed to be attached to that, and it's now detached. Great. So these edges are supposed to match up here and here on the side. They just don't really. It's like they're just slightly, they're different sizes. Okay. The body, I don't know. I might have to end up doing a lot of sanding. I'm not sure. I don't know why there's a gap there. I'm really, every time I test with this, it's not good. See what I mean? No, you can't see what I mean. So these are supposed to match up like that. Okay. That's the body panel connection, and it's it's a, it's not the same size. And then when it's on here, okay, there's a gap here and here that I don't know if it's supposed to be there or not. I guess this goes over. That's interesting. Okay, fits like that. Oh, okay. So if this gets attached at some point in the future, after it's painted, this won't go on until after it's painted, of course. Of course, this doesn't fit either. It has these tiny little pins that are supposed to go in the holes here, alignment pins. They really don't quite. That one is on. Supposed to fit under it like that. Okay, now that is close, close, but not quite being on how it should be. So the chrome piece covers up the gaps. At least it's supposed to. Okay, well, you immediately see some issues here. Um, there's a protuberance here. These protrude here and here, and they get in the way of the thing fitting. This is going to be quite a chore to get this put together because the pieces don't fit. And yeah, cleaning this off, this is going to be, this is delicate because it's a big piece of plastic and you can really see it when it's up against you see it there, see it sticking out when it's up against the black little bit there. That is supposed to not be there. There's a little bit here too, and then cleaning that off without marring the chrome. But it can't be there. It's like which is worse now? The protuberance keeps it from fitting, or mar in the chrome. I don't know how people who make a living at this manage to get. Um, so people say just a sec, okay, which is as I started talking about, instead of saying second, instead of saying the whole word, they just say one syllable of it. And that seems to be something that's becoming more and more common now. I'm not sure if it's because people are chatting on social media or online, and they you it's just faster to abbreviate a word like that. Not an official abbreviation, but that's what abbreviation means, is that you don't use the whole word. Shipping somebody, which is not at all, has nothing to do with sending stuff on a boat. You know. But that's one of those things. It's one of those things that that we get going now, is that just use one syllable of it. So I was talking about, you know, that was a digression. I wasn't really talking about seconds as skipping syllables. It fits much better now, actually. But when someone says just a sec, by which they mean just a second, and what they really mean is not just, they mean that time unit. They don't say the whole word. When they say just a sec, they very rarely, actually, I would say probably never, mean a second. They mean a short interval of time, an unspecified short interval of time. And they just say just a sec rather than saying the whole word. But that isn't even really what they mean. They don't mean wait a second. They mean wait a short period of time. Usually, a second is not a very, very tiny piece of time. You count out the seconds. You- So it is kind of surprising almost always about how slow seconds are. But if you're wanting to go out and someone's waiting for you, and you're looking for I don't know, like something ornamental, like a scarf or something, you know, and you can't find it right away, and you say just a sec, you don't mean a second. It probably would take you 35 or 40 seconds to find what you're looking for. Well, okay, I'm glad I played around with that. I wonder if this one has the same kind of issue with fitting. This one fits better. Well, there they are. But one step forward, two steps back all the time. So this is supposed to go on here like this. It really only attaches on the ends. It looks like, doesn't, and then a little bit up there at the top where the license plate goes, and here, the contact points. It looks like. that off just a little bit. And then I'm going to attach this. And I'm also going to repair the radiator, which was fine, and then it's not. It decided to not be good anymore. Just some of that excess paint. Great. Thing in my hand. Taking Ended up taking the paint off of where I didn't want it to come off. Here. All right. Um, that's not really all right, but it's not awful. So you start your job, I'm on. So you're going to start your job next week. That's pretty exciting. It's actually really cool, and I hope it goes really well. I hope you like it, and I hope they like you. It's on better when it's upside down. I'm going to do a little bit of real quick touch up on that, where I messed up the paint because I just decided, I don't know why, to mess up the paint. Well, this is pretty good. I've wasted almost 45 minutes without doing anything at all, except, well, I can't say I didn't get anything done. I got things undone. I got a thing undone. I undid the radiator doubly. Not only did it fall out of the car where it was being held in by friction, and it just seemed fine being held in by friction, but it fell out. But not only did it fall out, but it came separated. The parts that were supposed to not be separated came, see that, separated. And now I need to put them back. Well, why not? So, fun with words today. I was having fun with words talking about seconds, minutes of time. But when you say just a sec, you really mean just a second, but you really don't even really mean that, because a second is, um, you're going to take longer than a second. So when someone says just a sec, and instead of saying just a second, instead of saying the whole word, you know you're going to be waiting for whatever it is they're doing. You're going to be waiting for longer than a second. You just are. Um, there's no way around it. You should just know that going in. As soon as you hear just a sec, plan on hanging out for many seconds, anywhere from like 5 to maybe 300, maybe longer. Just to mar that. This is apparently a continuation of yesterday. I managed to destroy a pan yesterday, a pan and a lid both in one fell swoop. What does that mean? What does one fell swoop mean? I don't know. Just like poof, just like that, I managed to do it, and it was a bizarre thing too that happened. So I was cooking last night. I was making dinner. I was cooking some things in the pan. I got them browned with some meat. I got them nice and browned, and I wanted them to cook through. And so I wanted to put a lid on the pan, to hold the heat in so it would cook through while I turned the heat down so that they didn't burn. Um, and there are lids that are made specifically for the pan I was using, but for some reason I forgot about them. There was this other lid that was just sitting on the counter right next to the stove, and it seemed to fit. It was smaller than the diameter of the outside diameter of the lid was smaller than the inside diameter of the pan, so it just sort of nestled in there. Okay, and then I went and did some prep work. I was cutting up some garlic that I was going to be putting into a sauce for pasta. And then I came back after doing that. I don't know, it wasn't very long. It might have been like 5 or 6 minutes, maybe. It was a very short period of time. And why am I getting? And what? And the lid just stuck in the pan. I mean, it's not just stuck. It was almost like it welded itself to the inside of the fry pan. And I tried everything. I even got like large tools out, pry bars and things, trying to break it loose. I tried, you know, making the lid cold by putting ice on it while the pan was still warm so that the pan would expand and the lid would contract and get it loose. Nothing, absolutely nothing worked. And so what I managed to do, which is, I don't know how things are going to go today, what I managed to do was destroy the lid because it's stuck in the pan, and destroy the pan because it has a lid stuck in it. And it just and what can be done? Nothing. I mean, there really isn't any way to fix it. And so, yeah, I did it. I went and destroyed cookware while I was trying to cook last night. Needless to say, the thing that was in the fry pan didn't get eaten because it can't get it out because the lid won't come off. I guess that was a minor loss compared to losing a fry pan and the lid. So those have to be replaced. I created a shopping opportunity. I guess is the only way to put any slight positive spin on it. Well, these need to be attached, so I'm going to attempt to attach them. And there's a contact point, contact there, and there, and there. Those are the contact points. That'd be here, here, and the kind of the center of that. I'm going to use the contact cement and hopefully not make a mess of it. This doesn't fit extremely well. This piece is slightly longer than the width of the body, and so they stick out on either side just a little bit. And I need to, that poses a little bit of a challenge. What I need to do is get them sticking out symmetrically so that they don't fit the same way on both sides. If that makes sense. Okay. So they're not going to fit. They're not going to fit very well. So I want them to not fit the same on both sides so that they look symmetrically not fitting. And that's the compromise I'm working for here. I'm going to put this contact cement on both surfaces so that it, again, in theory at least, will grab onto itself and hold tight. Yeah, so that's the theory. Anyway, the theory. It's not really a theory, not like in a scientific sense. Formal proposal that says this is our theory. This is what I believe is how it's supposed to work. Okay. It's sort of like the hope. I guess that would be it. Is that the hope, the desire will be that they will hold on to each other and that I can get it positioned so that they are symmetrically misaligned, right? Do that by feel feel the gap. No, seems to be holding anyway. And they are symmetrically misaligned. Yay. Gap is kind of minimized. That's good. Okay. Now then there's the back. Is it sticking on? Yeah, that's sticking. That's good. So the back one, as far as I can tell, yeah, it goes like this. But I think it's supposed to go on the inside. I think this body panel goes on the inside of the other of the body like that. Because it doesn't really, there's a gap there. It has to match up. It has to match there and there. And then there's this, but it doesn't make, but then there's this big shelf here that looks like that should go on like that, right? But if it does, if I line up the angle, okay, so that this this angle matches the point of the angle matches the point there. If I do that, then there's this big gap along the top. I don't know if that's intentional. It would be, what I'd like to do is get it to kind of, okay, well, that fell. That wasn't quite as bad as welding a pot lid onto a frying pan. That was a not good thing to do. Oh, the dogs are very excited about something. See what I mean? If these angles match up, like here, sort of matched up, it's close, like that. And that there's this gap right along here, big gap. I don't know if that's where the bumper goes. Yeah, I guess it is actually. That's where the bumper goes. At least one side of it goes there. It's one side fitting, not the other one. It isn't going on at all. I mean, this side, that's an ill-fitting bumper. It's like it's actually warped. Hmm. It's just leaving a huge gap. Not seeing why that isn't fitting. Take this off. You see what I mean? It just leaves a big gap all the way. So if this side fits, sort of, this side doesn't fit. I'm not sure. Tell right off what's hanging that up. Well, I wonder where it went. Well, I'm glad I'm messing with this now and not later. Trying to figure out how to get this to fit. just has to go like that. It's supposed to go under like that. Oh, but this side is getting hung up on something. You know, classic American car company quality panel fit. You see the size of the gap there, but it doesn't make sense because this is right up against. That's as good as that's as good a fit as it's going to get, and it's going to have gaps in it. It's just, you know, that's just how it's going to be. And then this, I'm still trying to figure out if that's supposed to go on the outside. It really doesn't. It doesn't look right. It looks like it has to go on the inside like that. And then just, yeah, it's a matter of matching up the angle there. So that fits like that. And then this fits on the other side. There isn't. Yeah, it goes inside the panel, and it actually goes in quite a bit back. Um, it's not it's not right up against the edge. It looks like it's inset a little bit, at least on the picture. Yeah, this is not going well. It's sort of kind of like that. But then if it's inset too much, then this isn't going to work. So this, I'm just looking at this as much as I can here. It, that panel curves around. I don't know if you can see it around here. The back curves around the back panel. What I'm thinking I might try to do is get this, if I could get it in place and just get it to stick. Okay. You know what I mean? If I can just get it to be held in just by the, like that, by force, the force of of pressure, that I will cement it from the inside along the seam, and then do a little paint touch up on it, maybe. Yeah, I don't see much of any other way of doing this. I'm probably going to knock the nose off on doing messing around with this. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can get it. I'm going to apply cement to the inside here, and hopefully it will stick. I'm going to use regular model cement. I can deal with problems later. But this will be most likely thing to hold it. Um, Actually, going to use this with a brush. I very rarely do this. I usually use the pinpoint applicator, but I'm going to do this with the brush. And I can repaint that. What's supposed to happen is that through capillary action, very, very thin liquid will be pulled into the gap, and then it will be held in place. I'm going to leave it upside down like this. I just don't, I really just don't want to touch it now because it'll just go bad. Okay. I am now at an impasse. Okay, pretty much. I've got, except for the radiator, which I have to reinstall at some point after the body pans, front and rear pans, um, settle on Friday. I'm gonna wait until Friday and try to do anything more on that. But I want the cements to cure so that parts so that they don't fall off. And then um, on Friday, I'll reinstall the radiator. That shouldn't take but a couple of seconds. Okay, but it will, because it won't fit. And it'll, you know, I don't know. I don't know why it fell out. It was holding in there really nicely, and then it wasn't. Um, so I need to put this back in here like that, and then the inside of the engine compartment, as far as the body parts go, not the bit bottom that goes up into it with the engine, but as far as these bits go, those will be that'll be put together on Monday, and then not Monday, Friday, and then for better or worse, really, for better or worse, it's really down to the point where it needs to be masked. And I'm not going to do that until I get the blue paint, and I don't think I'm going to get that Thursday. So how much time got? Got an hour left? No, geez, it's only a little after 11. Um, yeah, I can't do anything more in the car. Really, nothing very useful. I can take some little parts off of the sprue and clean them up, I guess, and put them in a container, like the headlight bezels and the rear view mirror and the side view mirror. I'm not sure that that accomplishes much of anything other than that they will be in a little container and hopefully not get lost. I think I need to stop working on this until probably Monday, as I'm likely not going to be able to get the blue spray paint until the weekend. There's a slight chance. Well, I need to paint the body of the car white first. I, I have white paint. It's not real glossy, but it's very white. It's pure white. And that will take, I want to put two coats on where the stripes are. And then I want that paint to cure before I put the masking on for the. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to not do anything more today on the car. On Friday, I'm going to reinstall the radiator. Okay, I'm not going to mess with it now because I want like I said, I want the cement to cure on the front and rear pans because they were touch and go about how well they were being attached. Um, and then on Friday, I'm going to put the radiator back in. It's not a big deal, but that needs to be done. And I am then going to mask the inside of the car, the parts that need to stay black, okay? Especially inside the cockpit and the engine bay. So I'm going to spend some time masking that, and then on Friday I'm going to spray paint it white. I'm going to put two coats of white paint on it. I'm going to spray the whole thing white, not just the place where the stripe goes, because otherwise you might see, like if I don't spray paint the whole thing, you might see an edge where the white stopped, like along the side of the car, and I don't want that. So yeah, on Friday, I will install the radiator and um, mask the inside of the car, the engine, okay, and the cockpit, actually the whole thing. I'm going to spend some time carefully masking that. And then I'm going to spray paint the whole thing white, put 2 coats of white paint on it, probably on Friday, so that the paint can cure over the weekend. And then on Monday, assuming I get the blue paint over the weekend, on Monday I will mask the stripes. Um, and then hopefully I'll paint it blue. And when I take the masking tape off, there will be really nice white stripes. And then there's a bunch of fiddly stuff that happens after that. Like, um, I need to put in the windows, windshield and the rear window. Might, what I really should do it, is paint the window frames silver, like they did here, okay, because they're supposed to be chromed. Um, I'm going to attempt to do that. That might mess the whole thing up. I'm not sure. What I will, well, what I'm, okay. Well, if it messes it up, what I'm thinking is whether I should, maybe I should not take the masking tape off the stripes until after I paint the windows, because if I mess up, no, but then I can't. I I thought about it. I thought about painting the window frames first and then masking them, but that's going to be just impossible. It's going to be like an impossible thing to pull off. I'm not even going to try. That would, I'm not going to try to do something I can't do. Um, okay, well, if I mess up the silver paint on the edges, the window frames, I'm just going to have to try to touch it up with the spray paint, the blue spray paint. I'm going to try to get a matching color of the blue spray paint with brush on paint. And the reason for that is that the um, the solvent in the spray paint, it dissolves the paint underneath it, but the acrylics don't. And I've got blue paint, but it's an old jar, and I don't think it'll work. Okay, well, there's a plan. My plan, the thing I will be attempting to do is on Friday, installing the radiator and masking the inside of the car so that I can paint the whole thing white, 2 coats of white paint, and then follow that up by taping where the stripe is going to go, 2 stripes. Well, I'm going to go back to the Fink. I started this before the new year and then stopped after the new year. But yeah, work on the Fink. I remember what color I used. Does anybody remember what color I used for the body? I don't even remember if I used the Tamiya paint. I don't think I used the Stonewall Gray because it's still up here. Oh, that was a sigh of frustration. Neutral gray, not dark gray. It's not Stonewall gray. It has to be the neutral gray because there's some touching up to do. I don't know why there's white spots on here. Before I put the wash on it, to bring out the texture on the sink, um, there's going to be some neutral gray touching up of just spots that have appeared all over the place. Just weird places where the paint isn't there. Okay. Well, what I was planning to do with this little tuft of hair on the top of its head and then its ears is, as you can see, painting that a dark gray, but I'm not going to. Okay. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to paint that a light gray and then put a dark wash on it so that I can shade it a little bit. And I think that will look better. So I'm going to repaint this front and back, okay, with a light gray and then wash it so that it looks dark. So there, that's the thing that I'm going to attempt to do. It'll be some painting. I'll do something anyway for the rest of the day. And then yeah, and then maybe I'll do the gray touch up as well. I've got a bunch of work to do on the ears. Um, I've got kind of a plan to do some shading on the ears. You can see they're pink, right? So after I get the tufts of dark color there, I'm going to take the ivory paint, I think, and I'm going to use not this brush, this brush with really coarse bristles. Here we go. And try to shade it so that it's kind of pink down at the bottom there, and then it's whiter, 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 and then I'm going to take the wash, the dark wash, and go around the outside like that. Well, what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the same gray on the hair here and here as the rest of the body. I'm just going to do that, um, and I'm going to do that because I'm going to be washing them differently. This is going to get a very, very light gray wash, a very light gray wash, and that's going to get a dark gray wash. But the base coat, the base can be the same. So there, that'll be simpler. And then I don't have to worry about the boundary between the colors right at this point because they'll be the same. I just need to be careful with it. And then since I've got this color out, I can look around and touch up spots that need to be retouched. Paint the insides of the ears here first. It was kind of when I was doing this originally, I was debating about whether I would paint. There's an inset. Okay, there's it's hard to describe it. These there's like a little there's a valley. Okay, where these hair things go into the pink, and I was thinking I would just paint up to it rather than into it. But if I'm going to use the wash is going to flow into that. Okay, which will be fine. So I want this to be this color. Okay, well, maybe I'll tell the story of these Finks again if you haven't heard it before. So back in the 50s and 60s, there was a guy who um, made hot rods. He took cars and customized them by doing things like taking off their fenders and putting a lot of chrome parts on the engine, okay, making the exhaust visible, you know, putting different, just really weird and wild paint schemes, painting flames on the side of the car. You know, if you just look up hot rod, okay, and you'll see what they used to look like. So his name was Ed Roth, and his nickname was Big Daddy. He was Ed Big Daddy Roth, this car customizer. And then he decided at some point, I'm not sure how or when, his mascot became the rat fink. Rat fink was a slur that was common at that time, in the 50s and 60s. It's one thing to be a fink. A fink was kind of literally somebody who squealed on somebody. Okay, like you weren't supposed to tell people in law enforcement, their parents or something, that somebody had done something bad. It would be that would be a fink is doing that, and then a really bad fink would be a rat fink. Actually, it was kind of redundant, to be honest, because to rat someone out is the same thing, is to tell on them. So a rat fink was just you know a double rat or a double fink. It was, I guess, like I said, it was redundant. But anyway, um, in any case, his mascot became this rat fink monster character, and that's what this is. This is a rat fink. You can tell because it's a rat and it says RF for rat fink. It and then he made these hot rods, and modeling was a thing then, and hot rods were things then, and so they put out a whole series of models including the Ratfink and also some of the hot rods that he made. And when those came out in the 60s, I was I was in kind of in grade school. I was maybe in seventh grade, and I thought, wow, those are kind of cool. Who doesn't like a rat thing? And look at him, smiling, looking innocent. So I eventually ended up building all of the ones that had come out originally. And when I retired and I started gathering models to build when I retired, and I never did until recently, until the stream got started. Actually, when I started doing that, I they reissued a lot of these, so I bought the reissues, and yeah. So when I finished the Pogo, which was the model I was working on at the end of last year, when I finished that, and I needed something to do to fill in the time until I started the Lotus, the Ford GT, because I didn't want to get it started. I didn't want to start it before the end of the year because I was going to be gone for almost a month traveling and visiting family and all sorts of stuff over the holidays and into early January. So it'd be almost a month where I wasn't streaming. I didn't want to start the car and then just sort of abandon it for a month. So I started on this guy. This was a this is a Rat Fink, and I obviously I didn't finish it. It wasn't a big deal not finishing it because I was planning to start on the car, and I did. I started on the car after I got back from all the holiday this, that, and the other thing. Um, and I guess I kind of anticipated that there would be some times during the construction of the car of the GT350 when and I would just sort of be stuck. I had to wait for paint to dry or paint to be purchased or something like that, like happened today, where things just, got a little out of sync and there wasn't anything more I could do on the car. So I, come back to this and get it closer to completion and be able to tell the story of the rat fink. So yeah, there's the rat fink. There's an angel. They're all finks, okay, even if they're not rats. Angel Fink is like a witch character with a cauldron. She's stirring a bubbling cauldron. There's a Fink on a high rise handlebar motorcycle. There's a Fink on a skateboard. There's a Fink on a surfboard. There's a Fink on the moon. Yeah, I collected just about all of them again because they reissued just about all of them. And I'm probably not. I don't know if I'll build any more of them or not. I'd kind of like to. The one on the surfboard is pretty cool. The one on the motorbike is pretty cool. Some of them, I just think they're kind of fun. in a grotesque kind of way. But that's why this Fink is, in process here because, it's a retro nostalgia thing. So it looks like I when I started building the car, I opened the box and it was, "Oh, this is probably gonna take all year." It's beginning to look like it's only gonna take half a year, depending on how much rework I need to do, if I need to, like, repaint everything 3 times before it looks okay, which is a possibility. Um, I mean, that's something that could very well happen. Um, but later this year, I'm gonna have to make a serious decision about what, if anything, I'm gonna build next. Hi, I'm on. Yeah, who to think is back because I am at an impasse with the car. I'm at a point where I can't really do anything more today. I need to let some cement cure, and then I'm going to have to do some repair assembly on Friday and some masking, and I need to get the blue paint for the body. It it is to the point now where I need to get that paint so that I can, begin working on the body. So I'm just sort of, you know, taking a little bit of time away from that by doing this because I well, I sort of have one other thing I could be doing. There is, kind of a hideous monster minifig. It's not really mini, it's pretty big, that could possibly be painted. It'll never be used in the show, though. It's not that kind of thing. What are the spells? Yep, it should be called Maxi. It's like the Maxi figure of my character that I painted a while ago. I had a 4 times mini size, 4 times bigger than mini sized, um, figure of my character, Ulseth Rel, the Furbog fighter. I suppose I don't know, I could do that. It would be more in the Dungeons& and Dragons theme than the Fink, but I did start the Fink, so I feel kind of an obligation to actually finish it eventually finish it anyway. So, yeah, I'm doing some touch up of the gray. Um, okay, that's kinda cool. That makes sense for a raven to be involved with sounds. Ravens can make, quite a few vocalizations. They can't mimic human speech exactly, but they have quite a few, it just sounds like they're just cawing, but they're actually a fairly complicated, set of vocalizations. So that sounds pretty interesting. that you're even familiar would have, spells. So when this is base coated, I'm going to attempt I managed to get my finger in the paint. I haven't done that in a little bit. Would your Raven be able to neutralize thunder? That would be quite a trick. I'm sure I'm gonna be missing more spots that need to be covered up, and hopefully the wash will do some of that. I'm gonna try some bunch of shading. Ah, okay. The sound of thunder. So that's an interesting thing because, you know, thunder, a lot of especially kids and things are afraid of thunder, but the thunder isn't going to hurt you. It's the lightning that comes before the thunder that's the dangerous part. And that sometimes isn't as frightening to people who should be afraid of it, just a flash of light. But the sound, the sudden sound, it comes on suddenly, boom, just like that. So she was alone during a storm. So the feeling of abandonment and the sound kind of came together. That's interesting. It's an interesting backstory. Well, when I'm done with touching up, which I'm pretty much done with, I'm going to do a flip for who. Hmm. Yeah, that actually all fits together pretty well. That would a really strong memory like that would bring back the panic. I have I can tell a personal anecdote. I guess it's okay to tell a personal anecdote. So I had yeah, the familiar learning that from her, learning about the backstory and why that's a problem certainly makes sense. So this is the story, at least as I have come to know it, because the event happened when I was too young to remember things, maybe like 2 years old or something. And apparently, this is how the story goes. I used to love strawberries. Okay, I would just eat lots of strawberries. I would eat strawberry ice cream. That was my favorite kind of ice cream. Why? Why? See that? White spot. Paint away. I just cleaned the brush, and I just saw the spot. 'Cause why not? Why not just see the spot after doing those things? Why? Why see it? when the paint is out and the brush has got paint on it. Why see it then when one can wait and not see it until it's all that stuff has to be done again. Yeah, so yes, so apparently the story is that I love strawberries. That's the only kind of ice cream I would eat. Okay, just you know, gorge on the berries themselves. That kind of thing is a little 2-year-old would do. And I guess okay, the chaos that happened because of her panic. I guess I was eating strawberries and lightning struck just outside the house. I mean, like within a foot or two. And of course, when lightning is that close, the thunder is very, very loud. But not only that, yeah, so I was eating these strawberries, like eating them down and enjoying them, and then lightning struck right outside the house. And of course, and with adults, and the adults panic as well. So I've got this incredible flash, this huge boom of thunder, and parents and grandparents panicking, trying to make sure that it didn't start a fire. So it was a just boom, all sorts of anxieties, trauma kind of. I mean, I'm not going to call it trauma in the sense that it was like traumatic, but it was really intense and frightening. And I never touched a strawberry or ate anything strawberry after that again. And to this day, I don't like strawberries. And that's the story of why I don't like strawberries, is because I was frightened by a strawberry when I was a kid. Everybody I tell that story to just sort of laughs. Oh, you were scared, frightened by a strawberry. That's really stupid. But I think that actually did happen. That the fright that came with the lightning striking and especially with the adults getting concerned and upset, which is pretty scary to a kid when the adults around you get upset, right? Because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be your rock solid rocketness. Um, so yeah, that. So the story that you're telling about Haroon, yeah, I think it was just the sound, because thunder doesn't bother me that much. You would think that that would be the connection, right? The adults panicking connected to the thunder, that I would be really scared of thunder, but no, I'm scared of strawberries. Weird. But yeah, so I had a real life story, just like the one that Haroon had, except that my connection was different, not with the sound, but with the stuff I was eating when the sound happened. Well, well, let's do the flip thing here. And since we're talking about that, I'm going to do the living and versus non-living flip here. Living, living on this side, and it doesn't say not living. It just doesn't say living. But I think it was everybody's sitting around having a good time eating strawberries, watching TV or whatever. There's probably some comedy on, and then all of a sudden, boom! Adult panic. That's a living. Okay. Sometimes a nightmare like that can actually have a long impact as well. Well, that hit my hand, so I should. Yeah, I think that was either 3-3 or 4-2. I wasn't really paying attention, but you have to flip in. Um, I'm going to. Well, it's not quite dry yet. What's up with that? No, it isn't a white spot. It's a black spot. I am just not having success here at all. What I was going to say is that as soon as this dries, which should have been at any moment, right? I could get the dark gray washout and attempt to wash the hair, those little bits that I just painted over. Mm-hmm. So it turned out to be 50-50 between living and whatever and blank. I'm going to use this really nice soft bristled brush for the wash. So if the wash doesn't work, like if it makes a mess, then I can just repaint it. And if I get it onto the part that I want, not a dark gray, but just light gray, then I can repaint it. So I need to do the wash on this hair bits um, sooner than later. Why is there a spot? There's those spots. It should be red and aren't. Along here, and here. I guess I'll wait to do the white. I'm not going to do the red touch up until I do the wash on the body. It just makes sense to wait. Because I might get the wash on the red and then I want to paint over it. Well, hopefully that'll be okay. Yeah, and she's not that close to the rest of the party yet, so they're not a substitute. This is what I'm going to attempt to do with the ear is stipple it like that with that really hard bristled brush with the ivory paint. And got all these little bits of mess of things. Um, I don't know. I might end up early today. I'm not really. Oh, I bet. Well, you can do. When I played a cleric in Dungeons and Dragons once, it was surprising what you can do with some of those spells that are supposedly, you know, beneficial and then turn out not to be. I guess I could put it face up. At least you can see that that's what it is. Um, oh, well, here, I'll take some time and talk about Dice and Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to set this up. I put it over somewhere, not here, put it somewhere not here, and hopefully not on top of the car model where I will do damage. I showed these on Monday, but why not show them again? So this Dyson Dungeons is all about their Dungeons and Dragons show, which you can watch on Twitch on Sundays at 2 Eastern Time, US Eastern Time, or you can catch them at your leisure or leisure, depending on how you want to say it, on YouTube or listen to them as a podcast. They are entertaining and just they're just really a lot of fun, regardless of how you participate with them with the episodes. But this stream started because we make our own dungeon tiles to use on the show. They're done on a PLA printer, and then they're primed and then hand painted like these here. Okay. And that's how this stream started. It was, well, if you're going to be painting them anyway, well, let's just stream your painting because it doesn't add any time. It's what you're doing anyway. Thank you. Yeah, it's what you're doing anyway. And so we'll put up a little ring camera and a surplus microphone. These are all things that are not good enough to use in our studio for our show, but they're good enough for this. So that's how this started because it was um, streaming me painting these tiles for use in the show. And these are just samples. So, for example, these stone ones, they would be primed and then painted with gray paint, and then the accent stones would be put in, and then to make them look weathered, sometimes they'd be washed with a dark gray wash, like this one was. Right? You can see how it's darker and streakier. But these are really cool because they have, and you can see that, right? You're going, what's happening here? How can that happen? And you can hear the clicking. How does that work? Well, the secret is, ah, yeah, I hope you can get that running. I know you had one episode, but it'd be great if you could do it regularly. Well, in the bottom of each of these, in the corners, each corner has two ball magnets, little like BB-sized magnets that are actually real magnets, and they rotate in pockets so that when they come close to each other, they will attract, and they rotate in the pockets so that regardless of what orientation you make them, they grab onto each other. And as you can see, they're powerful enough that they hold the pieces together pretty well, but weak enough that they can come apart pretty easily and be reconfigured. And I think that's just really kind of an amazing thing. And you can see how they can put them together like that. And they show up on our show. We've been in dungeons made up of these kinds of tiles, like a stone dungeon, or in this case, wood, which could be a warehouse or a manor house or something like that. These are a little more elaborate to paint. They're base coated, they're primed and then base coated in a light brown color, and then washed with a wash that's called smoky ink, which is kind of a dark brownish red, and it brings out the grain pattern that's been printed in, and that's all painted, and then the stucco panels are painted after that to provide additional detail, and they work the same way. Um, this is an example of one with a door. We have doors that work. They're pin hinged. The pin goes through the top, through the door. And then the door hardware is detail painted. That kind of stuff used to happen on this stream. And they work the same way. Since then, since these were made, there have been some significant improvements in the quality of the tiles. Just really pretty dramatic stuff. We got a new printer that can stop and resume. And what Alexis has been able to do is, like here you can see the plate that was attached. The magnets go in and then the plate attaches to the bottom to hold them. This one doesn't have a plate because it prints up to a point, like about that high, okay? And then the magnets go in and then it resumes printing and it prints the rest of the floor and the wall so that it's one solid sealed unit. There's doesn't break. The door, no, the door is actually printed this way. Um, the door hardware, the handle and the metal strapping, and the board, the wood grain and the separation between the boards. It's actually the printer is able to actually print it like that. It's really pretty amazing what it can do, and then it was painted and then installed. And here, this is a different kind of door. It's supposed to be panels with a metal frame, but it's the same sort of thing. It's printed. And that's the other thing that was a huge improvement in the quality of the tile. You can see that, in this case, the a pin went through the door and goes into a hole in the bottom here. And then a lintel is put on top of it to hold the pin in place, and it has to be epoxy so it doesn't fall out. But you can see that it's a separate piece, and you can see the glue line. Well, that isn't a thing anymore because the printer can stop. The door can be installed. Printer would stop like halfway through the lintel here, or before the lintel is printed on, actually, and then it's printed over so that there's no holes and no gaps anymore. And when this was first done, little strings would form because there's nothing supporting it underneath here. But Alexis has figured out a way to eliminate that problem so that our current generation of dungeon tiles, this one, has no seams anywhere, a fully installed operating door, okay, and no separate lintel, nothing at all. It's just done, and it's really quite amazing. And the same thing is true of these. These are windows for a castle, same sort of thing. See, they attach. And if you look at the quality of them, the inside of the window is perfectly smooth. There's no little dangly bits. So that's the story of our dungeon tiles. And this stream was originally all about producing these dungeon tiles for our show, which you absolutely positively must catch up on. Watch it on YouTube or listen to it as a podcast. It's really quite good. I've also painted minifigs on the screen, and I've got a couple over here that I probably could show you. I've shown before. This is going to be like a repeat. These are just a couple. This is an orc, but he's going with the disco look, I think. I just decided to get very fancy, a very fancy orc. I'm not sure if the colors that he chose for his clothes like complement his skin color, whether they clash, it's not really clear. The hair, okay, the hair is well, there was a little bit of a dye job there on the hair. Just is nice staff, like glowy purple staff. And then the cleric here. she got all fancy too. Got her hair up. Got some fancy boots with gold stitching kind of on them. You know, pink shield kind of match her outfit. The pink and red kind of theme there. I think she came out pretty cool. I think that's pretty good. And her little wand staff looks decent too. It's kind of fun painting these. There's like three colors, three different shades of brass on here. Maybe you can't really see it, but the inside of each of the head is painted dark, and then a lighter color is applied to the shaft and to the rest of it, so that the texturing of the head of the shaft of the staff there is, highlighted, and then um, the little ridges are painted a lighter color, just so that if the light catches it right, you can see the contrast. So these are the kinds of things that I paint on this stream occasionally too, if there are any that are needed for the show. Sometimes just to do it. Um, Back to this. Yeah, I'm not. I really need to be patient and wait for the cement to cure on the front and rear uh, panels. I was, I was starting to get a little impatient. I thought maybe I'd put the radiator back in now, but I'm not going to. I am going to be patient, and I'll wait until Friday to do that. So again, on Friday, what I will be doing is I'll be reinstalling the radiator up here, and then I'm going to be masking the inside of the engine compartment. Okay, masking that whole thing so that the body can be painted white and then eventually be painted blue. And I'll be masking the interior also so that, because the interior has to be black, so I'll be masking all of this up to these edges, and then the body will be painted white. The whole thing will be painted white, including the hood here. And then after the white paint cures, I will be masking it to paint the stripes, and the stripes will be painted in inverse order. That is to say, the white will be masked over and then painted blue, and then when the masking comes off, it will reveal the white stripes. And I've actually been able to do that on a more limited scale with an airplane I built, the Savoia S-21 Porco Rosso's plane, of painting the lighter color, masking it, painting the darker color, masking it, painting yet another color, and unmasking that. And the stripes came out okay. The tape, if it's applied well and it adheres well, um, it 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 just works, and then the stripes come out nice and clean. And that may or may not happen here. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out sometime in the next couple of weeks, maybe. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't know. Has the gray paint on this ink dried yet? Okay, I guess what can go wrong, right? What can possibly go wrong other than things can go wrong? I'm going to attempt to get the wash on the parts that are supposed to be dark. I'm going to attempt to do that and attempt to make it look pretty good. And I don't know. It might come out look great, or it might come out and just look awful, and I'd have to start over. But I've got a little bit of time yet. I haven't spilled or broken anything yet. Why not tempt fate? I am now officially tempting fate here. This, by the way, is its scale. It will need to be attached at some point, but not now. I have to be kind of careful with this and make sure there's not too much on the brush. Otherwise, it just misses the point. I want it to look kind of streaky, like hair, you know. Yeah, I got it on the pink. It was my typical thing of as I push the brush up to it, I got it surface that I didn't want it on. I'm really not very good at this shading stuff. I'm just not. Nicole, a member of Dyson Dungeons, is just she's she is actually an artist, a real artist, trained as an artist, and is really quite good at this kind of thing. Not, I mean, just knowing how to do it and making it look really nice. And I don't know how. I don't know how to. I am not that kind of. I'm not skilled. I mean, I'm pretty good, as I like to say, I'm pretty good at coloring in the lines, and keeping, like doing base coat detail stuff and making sure that it's in the lines, given the limitations of my age and my hand coordination or lack thereof. Not too bad at that. But when it comes to this kind of thing of doing shading, not so much. So I can make things look kind of cartoonish as I've been told. My figures look cartoonish. If you, if you've ever, Well, you've seen cartoons, so you know how that is. So even when I put this wash on it, which is supposed to cause, you know, light and dark spots, some variation, even when I do that, it comes out flat looking. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I guess I just need to put little bits of more on it, little bits, little more bits, bits, more bits. Try to, you know, enhance the color in spots, not, to make some spots darker, not enhance, whatever. Make it look like it's not so uniform. Maybe I need to use I have even a darker wash. I'm not sure that that would do much good. Well, I guess I'll let this dry, and then maybe on Friday I'll mess around with a little bit more when I see what it looks like after it's dried. That looks better. Way too much of this stuff out. I should have just made one drop. I didn't need that many drops. No, that made that one. It's kind of a mess up there. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop playing with it because it's not getting any better. And I'll come back to it on Friday, maybe. Probably will because I'm not sure I'll use the entire stream on the car on Friday. Like today, I might just run out of stuff. But I'm going to just give you a quick review of the progress I have made on the GT350. Do that real quick. Hopefully, not knock anything over or break anything in the process. This out of the way. So this is the thing I'm building, but the colors are going to be reversed. It's going to be blue with a white stripe, not this way. So this is the box of parts that are finished. There's actually quite a bit done already. Okay. As you can see, the bottom chassis is complete. The engine's been installed. You can look at it from the bottom as well. The car is designed as a model. You can turn it over to look at stuff like that. Just curious. I was just curious about whether the wheels would go on or not. Looks like they might. And then the passenger compartment is finished, and I think I did an okay job of that in terms of the detail on the dashboard, the steering wheel, the little pedals down there. You can see them. They have, as they're supposed to, kind of a chrome edging around them. I got the medallion kind of simulated, at least on the steering wheel, the radio and the buttons and things. I think, yeah, it's okay. You know, it looks like it's a painted model, and there are tiny little flaws that I just can't fix in the way it looks. But it came out. If you look at it from a distance, like about like that far, it looks okay. And eventually, this will go in here like that, and somehow like that, and then the body of the car goes over all of that. I don't know why they detailed the drive shaft and the transmission housing because, well, I guess if you turn it over, you can see it. Otherwise, you can't. And the parts aren't falling off or anything, so that's all good. So that I got that stuff done. Those are done things, and now I'm just uh, eventually getting around to getting the body of the car done. And I know since I test fit it some time ago that the body doesn't really fit on the rest of it very well at all. It just doesn't. But so it goes. So yeah, it's coming along, and I'm gonna I'm just gonna stop for today. I know it's a little early, but I'll be back on Friday, and when I get back on Friday, I'll be reinstalling the radiator, which fell out and came apart, and masking the parts that I don't want to be painted white, so that over the weekend I can paint the body white. So that's what I'll be doing on Friday, and then I don't know, maybe I'll work on the Fink again, or maybe I'll just take off early. I'm not sure. But come back on Friday at more or less 10, probably, check in around 10 after. It might be a little bit late because we got construction people coming in and they show up around 10 and sometimes they need attention. So I'll be trying to start around 10ish on Friday, making some additional progress on the body of the car. And then I'm not sure, something else to fill the time. So I'll see you then. Take care.